My name is Isabella Foster. When my family abandoned me at a Nevada gas station 15 years ago with $50 in a note saying, "Life lesson. Make it on your own," they laughed as they drove away. He never came back. Last week, after Grandfather Harold died, I woke to 107 missed calls. They needed my signature to claim $45 million in inheritance. What they didn't know, he now owned their company. Before I tell you how I bought their empire with their own money, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely connect with this story. I'm curious where you're listening from. Drop your location and time in the comments. Now let me take you back to that desert gas station where my family decided I wasn't worth the gas money home. I was 8 when my parents died in a car accident. Harold Foster, my father's employer, took me in. Not officially, Patricia, his wife, made sure of that. Temporary arrangement, she'd say whenever anyone asked. Until we find proper placement. Proper placement never came. For 15 years, I lived in their Connecticut mansion. Though lived is generous. My room was the converted storage space above the garage. Marcus, their biological son, had an entire wing with a bathroom bigger than my bedroom. While he attended Exit Academy, I took the public bus to Jefferson High. His 16th birthday gift, a BMW M3. Mine? Patricia reminded me that charity cases should be grateful for any roof. Harold tried to balance things when Patricia wasn't watching. He'd sneak me into his study, teaching me about supply chains, profit margins, and market volatility. "Knowledge is the only inheritance no one can steal," he'd say, pulling another business book from his mahogany shelves. Those stolen hours in his study were the only times I felt like family. But Harold's health declined during my freshman year at State College, the only school Patricia would co-sign loans for, and only because Harold threatened to review the household finances himself. She controlled everything else, the bank accounts, the staff, even Harold's medication schedule. The last time I saw him before the Nevada trip, he gripped my hand with surprising strength. "I've made arrangements," he whispered while Patricia talked to his nurse. But timing is everything. Wait for the right moment. I thought he meant arrangements for his care. I didn't understand until 15 years later that Harold Foster had been playing a longer game than any of us imagined. Harold Foster built his logistics empire from a single truck in 1962. By 2009, Foster Industries moved $40 million of goods monthly across 6 states. But in his own home, he couldn't move a penny without Patricia's signature. Financial security, she called it, when she convinced him to add her as joint signator on everything after his first heart attack. Marcus backed her up, of course. "It's for your own good, Dad," he'd said, already eyeing the CEO chair at 25 despite never working a day in the warehouse. Harold and I had our sanctuary, though, the library. While Patricia attended her charity galas and Marcus partied in Manhattan, we reviewed logistics routes and dissected quarterly reports. Taught me to read financial statements like detective novels. "See this inventory turnover ratio?" He'd point out, "Marcus reported these numbers last week. What's wrong with them? The warehouse only has capacity for half this volume." I'd answer, "Exactly. Always verify. Never trust numbers without seeing the operation yourself." One evening, shortly before the Nevada trip, Harold called me in alone. His hands shook as he handed me a business card. "James Crawford," I read, "is state attorney." "If anything happens," Harold said carefully, "if the family ever disappoints you, call James. He has something for you." "Grandpa, you're scaring me." He smiled sadly. "Real family stays when there's nothing left to take. Remember that, Isabella. And remember, patience wins more battles than force." 3 weeks later, Patricia announced a family bonding trip to celebrate my college graduation. Harold was too sick to travel. As I hugged him goodbye, he whispered, "Whatever happens, you're my true heir." I thought he meant spiritually. I had no idea he meant it literally. June 15th, 2009. Patricia drove the burgundy Bentley while Marcus played with his new iPhone in the passenger seat. I sat in the back watching Connecticut disappear, then New York, then Pennsylvania. Family road trip to Vegas, Patricia had announced, celebrate Isabella finally graduating. The first warning sign, they paid cash at every stop. No credit cards, no receipts. Like we were ghost passing through. Day 3. Somewhere in Nevada's desert, Patricia pulled into a Chevron station. The thermometer read 108 degrees. Nothing else visible for miles except heat shimmer and Joshua trees. Isabella. Be a dear, Patricia said, handing me a 20. Get everyone water, the cold ones from the back cooler. I should have noticed Marcus smirking. Should have wondered why they'd both gotten out a stretch while I went inside. Should have questioned why Patricia left the engine running. The station's air conditioning hit like a wall. I grabbed 3 bottles of Fiji water from the back cooler. Waited behind 2 truckers buying energy drinks. Made small talk with the cashier about the heat. 5 minutes, maybe 6, the Bentley was gone. I ran outside, water bottles dropping, shattering on concrete. The parking lot was empty except for oil stains in my abandoned suitcase. No, not abandoned. Placed deliberately positioned against the pump with an envelope tucked under the handle. Inside, $50 and a note in Patricia's handwriting. Life lesson. Let's see if you can make it on your own. Don't call. We've canceled your phone. My hand shook as I tried my cell. Service discontinued flashed on the screen. The cashier watched from behind bulletproof glass as I stood in 108 Degit, holding $50 $2,000 from home. The Bentley's taillights had vanished into the desert. They were laughing. I knew they were laughing. The Chevron cashier, Eddie, let me sit inside until his shift ended at midnight. Can't leave you out there, he said. Coyotes get bold when it's this hot. I spent that first night on the bathroom floor of the 24-hour station. The second night, curled behind the dumpster after the new cashier threatened to call the cops. By the third day, I was hallucinating from dehydration and heat exhaustion. No phone meant no bank access. Patricia had made sure I'd never memorized the account numbers. The nearest Western Union was 50 m away, the nearest town with actual services, Las Vegas, 90 Meter East. The 50 bought me water and stale sandwiches for exactly 2 days. You could hitchhike, Eddie suggested when he returned for his next shift, finding me still there. Truckers heading to Vegas might give you a ride. A 23-year-old woman alone with no phone, no ID. I laughed, but it came out like a sob. That's how people end up on missing persons posters. Eddie slipped me $20 from his own wallet. There's a shelter in Henderson, he said quietly. My cousin volunteers there. Take the freight road east. It's longer but safer. Follow the power lines for miles. I walked through the night to avoid the heat. Following the power lines like Eddie said. My college tennis shoes split open after 10 miles. I wrapped them with strips torn from my shirt and kept walking. Dawn was breaking when I reached Henderson. The shelter coordinator took one look at me, sunburned, dehydrated, feet bleeding through makeshift bandages, and called an ambulance. Who did this to you? The ER doctor asked. My family, I said. She didn't believe me. Neither did the police. No family would do that, the officer said. He was right. They weren't family. The Henderson shelter gave me 3 nights and a bus pass to Las Vegas. On day 4, I walked into a Wells Fargo branch looking like what I was homeless. I need to access my account, I told the teller. I've lost my card, but I have my social security number memorized. She typed, frowned, typed again. I'm showing this account was closed 5 days ago. That's impossible. There was $5,000 closed by the joint account holder Patricia Foster. Reason given, suspected theft by unauthorized user. My college savings, 5 years of campus jobs, summer internships, every birthday check from Harold that Patricia didn't intercept. Gone. Can I speak to a manager? The manager pulled up the records. The closure was processed in Connecticut. Mrs. Foster filed a police report claiming her daughter stole the family credit cards and ran away. She provided documentation as the custodial account holder. I'm 23. That's not a custodial account. It was opened when you were 17. Never converted. He looked sympathetic but firm without ID and with a theft report filed. I can't help you. I used the shelter's phone that night to call the house. Marcus answered on the second ring. Did you make it back yet? He was laughing. Actually laughing. Mom bet you wouldn't last 3 days. I gave you 5. Guess she won. Marcus, I need what you need is to learn your place. You're not a foster. You never were. This was Dad's idea, actually. Teach you to stand on your own feet instead of leeching office. Harold would never. Dad's too sick to care. Stop calling. The line went dead. That night I made a decision. If they wanted me gone, I'd disappear completely. But first I'd survive. Then I'd thrive. And someday I'd make them regret leaving me in that desert. The Las Vegas rescue mission had a job board. Bottom of the list. Warehouse worker needed. Immediate start. No experience required. Harrison Logistics, I took it. The warehouse sat in an industrial district where the summer heat turned metal into brands and concrete into grrls. My supervisor, Tony Harrison, looked at my bandaged feet and sunburned face. You running from something or toward something? Both, fair enough. Can you read shipping manifests? Yes, then you're already overqualified. 60 hours a week, minimum wage, cash paid daily. Don't steal, don't do drugs. Don't miss shifts. Questions. When do I start now? That first shift, unloading containers in 115 heat. I thought about Patricia's air-conditioned Bentley, about Marcus's trust fund, about Harold alone in that mansion, too sick to know what they'd done. Every box I lifted, every pallet is stacked. I imagined building something they couldn't take away. I slept in the warehouse that first week. Tony pretended not to notice. On day 8, he handed me an envelope. There's a room for rent above the office, $150 a week. Interested? The room was a converted storage space with a hot plate and a mattress on the floor. It was mine, paid for with money I'd earned. No one could close this account or cancel this lease. I legally changed my name that month. Not completely, just enough. Isabella Harrison for work documents. Isabella Foster would stay dead in that desert. If they wanted me gone, I'd give them exactly what they wanted. Sitting in that sweltering room, counting my first real paycheck, I made a promise. I'd never beg anyone for anything again. Not money, not love, not recognition, especially not from the people who'd left me to die for a bet. If you've ever been betrayed by family, leave a comment. Sometimes strangers treat us better than blood relatives ever did. I learned that summer that family isn't about DNA or last names. It's about who shows up when you have nothing left to offer. Tony Harrison gave me a job when I looked like a desert casualty. Eddie the cashier gave me $20 he couldn't afford to lose. They were more family in those moments than the Fosters ever were. Like and subscribe if you want to know how I built an empire from that warehouse floor and how the Fosters eventually paid for their joke. September 15th, 2024, my assistant knocked on my office door. Top floor, corner suite, floor toe-sailing windows overlooking the Phoenix skyline. Isabella, you have 107 missed calls on your personal line. I hadn't used that number in 15 years. Only 5 people had it, and 4 were in this building. Same number. Connecticut area code. They're also emailing. Subject line says urgent family emergency family. The word sat bitter on my tongue. I played the first voicemail on speaker. Patricia's voice filled my office. 15 years older, but still sharp with entitlement. Isabella, Harold is dead. You need to call immediately. The second message more frantic. The will reading is next week. Your presence is required. By the 50th message, her composure had cracked. Isabella, please. We need you to sign something. It's important. Message 73 was Marcus. Stop playing games. Dad left everything to the daughter of the Foster family. We need you to sign a waiver. We'll compensate you fairly. Message 98, Patricia again. Almost shrieking. You ungrateful little. We know you're alive. The private investigator found you. CEO of some company in Phoenix. Don't think you can ignore us. We have rights. The last message came from a different number. Professional calm. Miss Foster, this is James Crawford from Crawford & Associates. Your grandfather, Harold Foster, has passed. His will reading is scheduled for September 22nd at the Foster Foundation Gala. Your presence is not just requested. It's legally required for the estate to be settled. Please contact me at your earliest convenience. James Crawford, the name on the business card Harold had given me 15 years ago. I dialed his number from my desk phone. He answered immediately. Hello, Mr. Crawford. This is Isabella Harrison, CEO of Phoenix Logistics. I believe we have business to discuss. Marcus called again that evening. I let it ring 4 times before answering. Finally, he snapped. Do you have any idea how much trouble you've caused? Hello, Marcus. Cut the act. Dad's will says everything goes to the daughter of the Foster family. His lawyers say that means you, even though you're not blood. We need you to sign a waiver acknowledging you're not actually family. Simple. And if I don't, then we'll contest it. drag this out for years. You'll get nothing anyway. You were never legally adopted, but we're willing to be generous. 100,000 cash for your signature. Harold left me something. He left his daughter something. You're not his daughter. You're nobody. A charity case Mom took in. Patricia told me Harold was too sick to care what happened to me. Silence. Then that was 15 years ago. Things were complicated. Complicated. Is that what you call abandoning someone in the desert? It was a lesson. You obviously survived. Probably better for it. I did survive. Even thrived. Good for you. Look, Isabella, let's be practical. You have some logistics company? Cute. Foster Industries does $40 million a month. The estate is worth $45 million. You're out of your league. Take the $100,000 and disappear again. What if I want to tend the reading? Patricia's voice suddenly came on. She'd been listening. Don't you dare show your face at my husband's memorial. You ungrateful parasite. We fed you, housed you, educated you, and left me to die in Nevada. Dramatic as always. It was 50 and a bus station. You were an adult. I was your daughter for 15 years. You were never our daughter. Sign the waiver, take the money, and stay gone. I'll be there, I said. Bring your lawyers. I hung up on their protests. I called James Crawford back within the hour. Mr. Crawford, you said Harold left something for me. Was it recent, Ms. Foster, or do you prefer Harrison now? What I'm about to tell you has been 16 years in waiting. Can we speak securely? This line is encrypted. Good. In 2008, your grandfather came to me with specific instructions. He was concerned about your welfare should something happen to him. He established a trust, my breath caught, when in 2008, March 15th, 3 months before your Nevada trip, Harold knew somehow he'd known what they would do. The trust contained $10 million in very specific activation conditions. It would only become accessible if you were, and I quote, abandoned or disowned by the Foster family through no fault of your own. He knew they would. He suspected. He also left a video deposition explaining his reasoning. But there's more. Are you familiar with Foster Industries' financial troubles in 2019? Vaguely, I lied. I knew every detail. They needed a silent investor to avoid bankruptcy. Someone bought their debt through a shell company, $30 million in high-interest loans. Interesting. Miss Foster, I've been managing your trust for 16 years. I know you're CEO of Phoenix Logistics. I also know Phoenix owns the shell company that holds Foster Industries' debt. You bought them with their own money, Harold's money, held in trust for you. Can you prove the trust exists? 3 witnesses, including a Swiss notary, plus Harold's video. It's incontestable, and Patricia and Marcus have no idea. They think Harold's current will is Heisenley will. They're about to learn otherwise. Mr. Crawford, I'll need you at the Reading. I've been waiting 16 years for that invitation. The Fosters are about to discover what Harold always knew. Blood doesn't make family. Choice does. My Gulfstream G650 touched down at Westchester County Airport at dawn. 15 years ago, I'd left the state in a Bentley trunk's worth of humiliation. Now I returned with a fleet of lawyers and enough leverage to bury Foster Industries. David Kim, my CFO, met me at the Four Seasons. The forensic audit is complete. Patricia embezzled $3 million from the Foster Foundation over 10 years. Marcus falsified inventory reports to inflate company value. It's all documented, and our position, Phoenix Logistics holds 65% of Foster Industries' debt, $30 million principal, $15 million in accumulated interest. Payment was due 6 months ago. We've been patient. I stood at the hotel window looking out at the Connecticut skyline. Same buildings, same streets. But I wasn't the same abandoned girl. The board members? I asked. 5 of 7 want Marcus out. They've been waiting for an excuse. My phone buzzed. Patricia texting from a number I didn't recognize. Whatever game you're playing, stop. You don't belong here. I forwarded it to my legal team. Documentation was everything now. That afternoon, I drove past the Foster mansion. The same Tudor facade, the same circular driveway where the Bentley used to sit. The garage apartment where I'd lived still had the same cracked window Patricia never fixed. But Harold's rose garden was dead. Brown stalks where prize-winning blooms once grew. Patricia had let them die just like she'd tried to let me die. The metaphor was almost too perfect. I returned to the hotel and opened the safe. Inside Harold's trust documents, Phoenix's debt contracts, and a USB drive containing his video message. 16 years of patience compressed into 3 lbs of paper and plastic. Tomorrow, at the Foster Foundation Gala, they'd learn what Harold always knew. Some investments just need time to mature. Crawford and Associates occupied a historic brownstone downtown. Patricia and Marcus were already in the conference room when I arrived, my heels clicking against marble older than their grudges. Patricia's eyes widened at my appearance. The Tom Ford suit, the PC Philippe, the same Cartier bracelet she'd claimed was stolen 15 years ago. How did you? Hello, Patricia Marcus. I sat across from them, placing my briefcase on the mahogany table. You look well. You look like you robbed a bank. Marcus sneered, but his hands trembled. I built a company, something you'd understand if you'd ever built anything yourself. Patricia pushed a document stack toward me. Sign these. A $100,000 is more than generous for someone who was never legally family. Didn't touch the papers. I want to read every line. There's no time. There's always time for due diligence. Harold taught me that. I read slowly, letting them sweat. Page by page, clause by clause. Their lawyers shifted nervously. Something was wrong with their confidence. On page 12 I found it. A clause about all current and future claims against Foster Industries and its subsidiaries. Interesting. I said, this waiver includes corporate debts. Why would inheritance paperwork mention corporate debts? Patricia's lawyer jumped in. Standard language, comprehensive protection. Protection from what? Marcus slammed his hand on the table. Just sign it. I set down my pen. I'll need to consult my attorneys. You don't have attorneys, Patricia hissed. I smiled. Phoenix Logistics retains 16 law firms across 7 states. Would you like their contact information? The temperature in this room dropped 10 degrees. Phoenix Logistics. Marcus's face went pale. You're not. You can't be. We'll see you at the gala tomorrow. I said, standing. Don't forget to bring the real will. The next morning I met with James Crawford privately before the gala. They're panicking, he reported. Patricia called 6 times last night. She knows something's wrong, but can't figure out what. Let them wonder. Show me Harold's video again. On his laptop screen, Harold appeared. Filmed in this very office in 2008, looking directly at the camera. If you're watching this, Isabella, it means they've finally shown their true nature. I'm recording this because I know my family. Patricia married me for money. Marcus inherited her greed. But you were different. You were chosen. I paused the video. He really knew. He suspected. Patricia had been talking about teaching you independence for months. Harold took precautions. The 10 million trust was only the beginning. Look at this. James pulled out another document. Foster Industries Corporate Charter Section 47 buried in amendments from 1995. In the event of Harold's death, if any heir is abandoned, disinherited, or dismissed without cause, they automatically receive majority voting shares. He planned this for decades. Updated it specifically for you in 2008, 3 months before Nevada. I held the pen Patricia had been so desperate for me to use. If I'd signed their waiver yesterday, you'd have forfeited everything. No inheritance, no trust, no corporate claims. And they know about Section 47. Not yet, but their lawyers are searching. We have maybe 6 hours before they find it. 6 hours is 5 more than I need. I stood smoothing my dress. White Versace, the same designer Patricia wore to every gala. But mine was custom, not rented. James, at the reading tonight, let them think they've won first. Let Patricia smile. Let Marcus gloat, and then we show them what Harold Foster knew all along. Real family isn't about blood. It's about who stays when there's nothing left to take. The Foster Foundation Gala had been Patricia's crown jewel for 20 years. Tonight, 200 of Connecticut's elite filled the Ritz ballroom. Judges, senators, Fortune 500 CEOs. Every year they came to worship at the altar of Foster philanthropy. They didn't know the foundation was built on stolen money. I entered through the service entrance, avoiding the red carpet, where Patricia held court in vintage Chanel and Harold's mother's diamonds. Marcus worked the room in his Armani tux, already celebrating his inheritance. Ladies and gentlemen, Patricia announced from the podium, tonight we honor my beloved Harold's legacy. his dedication to family, to integrity, to building something that lasts. I almost laughed. The only thing lasting would be their humiliation. I took my seat in the back row behind the Hartford mayor and a federal judge. David Kim sat 3 rows ahead, recording everything on his phone. 5 board members were scattered throughout, waiting for my signal. James Crawford approached the podium carrying a leather portfolio. The room quieted. Before we begin, James said, I must confirm all potential heirs are present. Marcus Foster. Here. Marcus raised his champagne glass. Patricia Foster present. She touched Harold's diamonds at her throat. Isabella Foster. Silence. Patricia's smile widened. She's not. I'm here. I stood. 200 heads turned. The judge beside me gasped. Apparently, Patricia had told people I'd died years ago. Patricia's champagne flute shattered on the marble floor. Isabella, James continued as if chaos wasn't erupting. Please come forward. As Harold Foster's legally recognized daughter, your presence is required for the reading. She's not his daughter, Marcus shouted. She's nobody, James smiled. Shall we let Harold explain that himself? The ballroom screens flickered to life. Harold's face filled every screen in the ballroom. The timestamp read March 15th, 2008, 3 months before Nevada. My name is Harold Foster. His recorded voice echoed through the silence. I'm of sound mind and body. Recording this in the presence of 3 witnesses. Patricia stumbled backward. Turn it off. If you're watching this, Harold continued. It means my family has done what I feared they would. Isabella, I'm sorry I couldn't protect you in life, but I can protect you now. The camera pulled back, revealing the witnesses, James Crawford, a Swiss notary, and Judge Catherine Walsh, who is sitting in tonight's audience. In 2008, established a trust for Isabella Foster, whom I consider my true daughter in all ways that matter. This trust containing $10 million activates only if she is abandoned or disowned by Patricia and Marcus. Marcus lunged for the laptop. Security held him back. I know what they're planning, Harold's voice continued. Patricia has mentioned teaching Isabella independence repeatedly. She's withdrawn large cash amounts. She's researching remote locations. I cannot stop her directly. She controls my medical care, but I can ensure justice. Patricia was backing toward the exit. David Kim stepped into her path. The trust funds are held in Switzerland, managed by James Crawford, with a specific instruction. If Isabella abandoned, she inherits not just the trust, but controlling interest in Foster Industries through Clause 47 of our corporate charter. The ballroom erupted. Board members were on their phones. Reporters typed furiously. One more thing, Harold said, looking directly into the camera. Isabella, if you're watching this, know that blood doesn't make family. You were more my daughter than anyone who shared my DNA. Use what I've left you wisely. The screen went dark. That's impossible, Patricia screamed. She's lying. This is fraud. James Crawford returned to the podium. There's more. Ms. Foster, would you like to explain your connection to Phoenix Logistics? I walked to the microphone, passing Patricia's shattered champagne glass. Phoenix Logistics started in a Las Vegas warehouse where I worked after my family left me in the Nevada desert. Using Harold's trust, activated by their abandonment, I built a company that now employs 2,000 people and moves $60 million in goods monthly. The screen showed Phoenix's corporate filing. CEO Isabella Harrison Foster. In 2019, I continued. Foster Industries faced bankruptcy. They needed $30 million to survive. A mysterious investor saved them through a shell company called Desert Rose Holdings. Marcus's face went white. He knew that name. Desert Rose is owned by Phoenix Logistics, which means I own 65% of Foster Industries' debt. $30 million principal, $15 million in interest. Payment was due 6 months ago. You can't, Marcus started. I can, and there's more, Mr. Kim. David stood, opening his laptop. 3 years of forensic accounting revealed systematic embezzlement. Patricia Foster stole $3 million from the Foster Foundation. Marcus Foster falsified inventory reports to inflate company value for loan applications. That's federal fraud. FBI agents entered through the main doors. The crowd pressed against the walls, phones recording everything. But Isabella, Patricia tried one last manipulation. We're family. Despite everything, Harold would want Harold knew exactly what you were. That's why he protected me from beyond the grave. You taught me a lesson in Nevada, Patricia. You taught me that real family doesn't leave you to die in the desert. I turned to the room. Foster Industries has 48 hours to pay Phoenix Logistics in full. If not, we foreclose. The Foster Foundation's books will be audited by federal investigators starting tomorrow. The company will collapse, Marcus shouted. 500 people will lose their jobs. No, they'll have new management. Me. Sometimes karma takes 15 years to arrive, but when it does, it brings compound interest. If you're still listening to this story of patience and justice, hit subscribe to hear how it ends. Comment karma? If you believe that what goes around really does come around. The woman they left with $50 in the desert now controlled their $50 million empire. But the real plot twist was still coming. Harold Foster had one more surprise from beyond the grave, and Patricia and Marcus were about to learn that some bridges, once burned, can never be rebuilt. Judge Catherine Walsh stood up from Hurtable. I was present when Harold Foster created that trust. Everything Isabella says is true. I watched him sign it. I validated his mental capacity. The FBI agents approached Patricia. Mrs. Foster, we need to discuss the Foundation's financial records. This is entrapment, Patricia shrieked. She planned this for 15 years. I agreed. The same amount of time you told people I was dead. The crowd gasped. Senator Williams' wife dropped her phone. Patricia, you said she died in a car accident. That was a misunderstanding. Like abandoning me was a misunderstanding. The screens lit up again. Security footage from the Nevada Chevron station dated June 15, 2009. The Bentley pulling away, me running out, finding the suitcase, collapsing in the heat. The station owner saved this footage, I explained. He felt so bad for the girl left to die. He kept it in case she ever needed proof. Marcus tried to run. The board members blocked him. 15 years ago, you made a bet, I said. Patricia bet I wouldn't survive 3 days. Marcus gave me 5. Want to know who really won? I pulled out my phone showing a bank balance. Phoenix Logistics is worth $200 million. Your company is worth $1 million when the debts are paid. So who really learned to stand on their own? Please, Patricia begged. We'll make this right. We'll apologize. Now you want to apologize when there are consequences. James Crawford stepped forward with another document. There is one more matter. Harold's personal estate, $45 million, goes to my daughter, Isabella Foster, who proved that family is about choice, not chance. The ballroom erupted. Patricia fainted into Marcus's arms, but I wasn't done yet. Before Patricia recovers, I said into the microphone, let me clarify something for everyone here who donated to the Foster Foundation. The crowd fell silent again. Patricia stirred but couldn't stand. The Foster Foundation claimed to help abandoned children. Ironic, considering they abandoned their own daughter. Bother's what your donations actually funded. David projected the forensic audit onto the screens. $3 million diverted to Patricia's personal accounts. Fake receipts for programs that never existed. Children who were never helped. Meanwhile, I continued, Phoenix Logistics has been running actual programs. We've housed 83 homeless youth in Las Vegas. We've provided job training to over 300 kids aging out of foster care. We did this quietly, without galas, without stealing. A woman in the third row stood up. I'm pulling my company's sponsorship from Foster immediately. Phoenix Logistics. Do you accept corporate partners? We do with full transparency and quarterly audits. More voices joined in. Within minutes, 12 major donors had publicly switched allegiance. Marcus finally found his voice. You can't do this. I'm the heir. I'm the son. You're right, I said. You're the son. But I'm the daughter Harold chose. Not by blood, but by love. And that's worth more than DNA. This is theft. Patricia screamed, finding her feet. No, theft is taking a college student's savings. Theft is embezzling from a charity. Theft is leaving someone to die and taking their identity. What? This is justice. The FBI agent stepped forward. Mrs. Foster, Mr. Foster, you need to come with us. As they were led out, Patricia turned back one last time. You'll regret this. The only thing I regret, I said clearly, is believing for 15 years that you were ever my family. After the FBI led Patricia and Marcus away, I stood alone at the podium facing hundreds of Connecticut's most powerful people. I have a proposition, I announced. Foster Industries employs 500 people who had nothing to do with Patricia and Marcus's crimes. They don't deserve to lose their jobs. The board members leaned forward. Phoenix Logistics will absorb Foster Industries, keeping all employees at current salaries or better. We'll honor all legitimate contracts and vendor relationships, but there's a condition. I paused, letting them wonder. Patricia and Marcus must publicly apologize. Not in a courtroom, not through lawyers. A video confession posted publicly admitting they abandoned me in Nevada. Admitting the embezzlement. Admitting everything. Why? Someone called out. You've already won. Because somewhere tonight there's a foster kid who thinks they're worthless. There's an adopted child being told they're not real family. There's someone being gaslit about abuse that absolutely happened. They need to see that justice exists. Judge Walsh stood again. I'll personally oversee the agreement. If they refuse, a board member asked, then Foster Industries declares bankruptcy tomorrow. 500 jobs disappear. Their legacy becomes nothing but scandal and shame. My phone buzzed. Marcus from custody. We'll do it. They've agreed. I announced the videos will be posted within 72 hours. The crowd began dispersing. But I had one more thing to say. Harold Foster once told me that patience wins more battles than force. It took 15 years, but he was right. To anyone here who's been told they're not enough, not family, not worthy, you are. And sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's becoming everything they said you couldn't be. I walked off that stage as Isabella Foster, finally and fully. No longer abandoned, no longer denied, acknowledged. 3 days later, Patricia and Marcus' confession video went live on every platform simultaneously. David had made sure of that. Patricia, in Orange County jail attire, looked directly at the camera. On June 15, 2009, my stepson Marcus and I deliberately abandoned Isabella Foster at a gas station in Nevada. We left her with $50 and no means of communication. It was cruel, calculated, and criminal. Marcus continued, his CEO arrogance completely shattered. We bet on whether she'd survive. We laughed as we drove away. We told everyone she died to avoid questions. We stole her college savings, Patricia admitted. We prevented her grandfather from legally adopting her. We made her life miserable because we saw her as competition for Harold's money. When she succeeded despite our cruelty, Marcus added. We tried to steal her inheritance through fraud. We also embezzled from the Foster Foundation. Patricia's voice cracked. Money meant for abandoned children went to fund our lifestyle. The video had 2 million views in the first hour. But I wasn't watching from Connecticut. I was in Harold's study, my study now, reading his journals. One entry, dated the night before the Nevada trip, stood out. Isabella came to say goodbye. She hugged me like she knew something I didn't. I wanted to warn her, but Patricia watches everything, so I just whispered, "Whatever happens, you're my true heir." She whispered back, "I know, Grandpa." I've always known. I think she's stronger than all of us. He was right. He was always right. James Crawford knocked. The board voted unanimously. You're the new CEO of Foster Industries. Patricia and Marcus' assets have been frozen pending trial. And the employees, all 500 keep their jobs with better benefits under Phoenix. Harold would have been proud. The dominoes fell faster than anyone expected. Day 4 after the gala, the FBI uncovered 12 more shell companies Patricia used for money laundering. Each discovery led to another, a maze of fraud spanning 20 years. Day 7. Marcus's Harvard MBA was revoked after they discovered he'd hired someone to take his finals. The same person, a Phoenix Logistics employee who'd come forward with receipts. Day 10. Foster Foundation's major donors filed a class action lawsuit, $300 million in donations over 20 years, demanding full accounting. Day 14. Patricia's first husband came forward. She'd done this before. Married wealth, embezzled, moved on. He'd been too ashamed to speak up until now. She destroyed my father's company, he told reporters. Exactly the same pattern, but nobody believed a man could be conned by his wife. Day 2016. Former Foster Industries employees contacted me privately. Marcus had sexually harassed 8 of them. Patricia had threatened their jobs if they spoke up. With the Fosters gone, they finally felt safe. We'll handle this correctly. I promised them. Full investigation, full accountability. Day 25. The judge denied bail. Patricia and Marcus would await trial in custody. Flight risk, the prosecutor argued. Pattern of deception. Day 30. I stood before Foster Industries employees in the same conference room where Harold once held board meetings. Your jobs are safe, I announced. Your benefits are increasing. The toxic culture Patricia and Marcus created ends now. Applause erupted. Several people cried. But I need your help, I continued. We're auditing everything. If you've seen wrongdoing, report it. If you've been silenced, speak up. The Foster name will mean integrity again. An older woman raised her hand. Isabella, we all knew what they did to you. We're sorry we didn't speak up. You couldn't, I said. They held your livelihoods hostage, but that's over now. The numbers were staggering. $45 million from Harold's personal estate, $10 million from the trust plus 15 years of compound interest. Controlling interest in Foster Industries valued at $60 million after debt settlement. Phoenix Logistics, my own creation, worth $200 million. Total assets under my control, $335 million. The woman they'd left with $50 now controlled $1/3 billion. But the real power wasn't in the money. It was in the influence. 100 Foster employees, 2,000 Phoenix workers, contracts with 40 major corporations, political connections Harold had cultivated for decades. Patricia and Marcus had thought small, stealing millions while sitting on billions in potential. Your first act as CEO, James Crawford asked during our transition meeting. Merge Foster Industries with Phoenix Logistics. Create the largest logistics network on the East Coast. And the Foster name becomes the Harold Foster Foundation, a real charity this time. Every dollar traceable, every child helped documented. Patricia and Marcus's personal assets liquidated for victim restitution. The employees they harassed, the donors they defrauded, the children who should have been helped. David Kim pulled up the projections. With the merger, we'll be worth $500 million within 2 years. Good. We'll need it for what? To buy every company that refused to hire me when I was homeless, to fund every shelter that took me in, to prove that throwaway people can build empires. The lawyers exchanged glances. That's aggressive, one ventured. 15 years ago, they thought they were teaching me a lesson about survival. They were right. I learned that when someone shows you who they are, believe them. And when you get power, use it to ensure they can never hurt anyone again. What about forgiveness? James asked quietly. Forgiveness doesn't mean giving them access to hurt you again. The trial began 6 months later. Court TV carried it live. The scandal of the decade. Patricia took the stand first, trying to play victim. Isabella manipulated Harold. She planned this for years. The prosecutor smiled. So, you're saying a 23-year-old with no resources orchestrated a 15-year plan while homeless? She wasn't really homeless. The emergency room records from Henderson show severe dehydration and heat exhaustion. Her feet required 12 stitches from walking 15 miles in torn shoes. Patricia went silent. Marcus tried another angle. It was meant to be temporary. A few hours maximum? Then why did you close her bank account, cancel her phone, tell people she died? The security footage played again. The courtroom gasped, watching me collapse in the desert heat. Then came the witnesses. Eddie, the gas station attendant, flew in from Nevada. That girl nearly died. I gave her my last $20 because I couldn't stand thinking about her walking through that desert. Tony Harrison testified via video link. She showed up looking like a heat stroke victim, worked 18-hour shifts without complaint, slept in the warehouse because she had nowhere else. The shelter coordinator from Henderson took the stand. We see a lot of abuse victims, but someone abandoned by their family in the middle of nowhere. That was a first. The jury deliberated for 2 hours. Guilty on all counts. Fraud, embezzlement, theft, criminal abandonment, filing false police reports. Patricia, 15 to 20 years. Marcus, 10 to 15. As they were led away in handcuffs, Patricia turned to me. I hope you're happy. I'm not happy, I said. But I'm free. And 500 people still have jobs. 300 foster kids have scholarships. That matters more than your opinion ever did. 1 year after the trial, I received a letter from federal prison. Patricia's handwriting, shakier than before. Isabella, I know you hate me, but please, Marcus is sick. The stress has given him ulcers. The inmates know what we did. They have children, too. Please, can you intervene? I read it to James Crawford over lunch. Will you help them? He asked. I already did. They're alive, aren't they? They have food, shelter, medical care. That's more than they left me with. That's cold. No, that's boundaries. But I will do one thing. I had my lawyers draft a proposal. If Patricia and Marcus completed therapeutic programs, real ones, with licensed psychologists specializing in narcissistic abuse, I'd ensure they were transferred to minimum security facilities. Marcus agreed immediately. Patricia held out for 3 months before capitulating. The psychologist report was revealing. Patricia shows signs of severe childhood trauma she's replicated onto others. Marcus exhibits learned sociopathic behaviors from his mother. Both are capable of change, but only through intensive intervention. I funded their therapy, not for them, for their future victims. People like them don't stop unless forced. 2 years into their sentences, I received another letter, this time from Marcus. I understand now what we took from you. Not just money or safety, but the belief that you belonged somewhere. I'm sorry, I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed you to know. I didn't respond. Some bridges are meant to stay burned. But I did something else. I established a program at Henderson Shelter, the Isabella Foster Initiative. Any young person abandoned by family gets immediate housing, job training, and therapy, fully funded forever. Because the opposite of abandonment isn't revenge. It's making sure no one else gets left behind. 5 years have passed since that night at the Foster Foundation Gala. Foster Industries, now part of Phoenix Logistics International, employs 8,000 people across 12 states. We're the largest minority woman-owned logistics company in America. Revenue $800 million annually. The Harold Foster Foundation has helped 3,000 abandoned youth. Everyone gets what I didn't. Immediate shelter, trauma therapy, education funding, and something Patricia never gave me. The knowledge that they matter. Patricia was released last month on supervised parole. She works at a Walmart in Ohio, court-ordered to stay away from Connecticut and me. Her coworkers don't know who she was. The diamonds are gone, sold for restitution. The Chanel suits replaced by polyester uniforms. Marcus serves tables at a diner in Missouri. His Harvard connections won't return his calls. His trust fund went to victims' compensation. He sends me a letter every Christmas apologizing. I don't open them anymore. The Foster Mansion is now a group home for aged-out foster youth. Harold's study became a library. His rose garden blooms again. I hired a master gardener to restore it. But the real transformation happened in Las Vegas, the Chevron station where they left me. I bought it, turned it into a rest stop for stranded travelers. Free phone calls, free water, a safe room with a bed for anyone who needs it. Eddie still works there now as manager, making 6 figures. You didn't have to do this, he said when I handed him the keys. 20 in kindness when I had nothing. That's worth more than you know. The sign outside reads Harold Foster Memorial Rest Stop. No one gets left behind. Patricia and Marcus drove past it once, according to my security team. They didn't stop. They knew better than to try. I visit Harold's grave every month. Fresh roses from his restored garden. You knew, I tell him. You knew what they would do, and you protected me the only way you could. Sometimes I find other flowers there. Notes from Foster Industries employees. Thank you for saving our jobs. From scholarship recipients, your grandfather's foundation changed my life. From people I've never met, your story gave me hope. The inscription on his headstone, which I chose, reads, Harold Foster. Blood makes you related. Loyalty makes you family. Patricia contested it, of course. From prison. The court dismissed it in minutes. I've never spoken to Hero or Marcus again. Not once in 5 years. They're blocked on everything. Phone, email, social media. My security knows their faces. They'll never get close enough to hurt me again. People ask if I forgive them. Forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation, I tell them. I've released the anger. It was too heavy to carry. But releasing anger doesn't mean removing boundaries. They're living with their consequences. I'm living with my freedom. That's enough. The truth is simpler than people want it to be. Some relationships are too broken to repair. Some trust, once shattered, can't be rebuilt. And that's okay. You don't owe anyone your presence. Not even family. Especially not family who left you to die. Last week, a 16-year-old showed up at Phoenix Logistics, kicked out by her parents for being gay, sleeping in parks, asking for any job, any shift. I hired her on the spot, set her up in corporate housing, enrolled her in our education program. Why? She asked, crying. You don't even know me. Someone once did this for me, I said. Now I do it for others. That's how we break the cycle. She's thriving now like I did, like we all can when someone believes we're worth saving. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear that their beginning doesn't determine their ending. Sometimes the people who abandon us does a favor. They clear space for the ones who will stay. Subscribe for more stories about justice, resilience, and the power of patience. Remember, you don't need anyone's permission to succeed, and you don't owe forgiveness to people who aren't sorry. Some bridges burn for a reason, to light the way forward. Comment boundaries. If you agree that the best revenge is building a life so good they become irrelevant to your story,